Shruti-Smriti-Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat-padam Shankaram Loka-Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya-kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Yomavat Vyapta Dehaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavarthaye Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Some of you might know how a fabric is woven. Go to a weaving mill, it's an extremely noisy place. How it is done is, you have a length of threads, maybe 3,000-4,000 across the width of 1.5 meter or so. And you have to weave the cross thread called weft across this. How it is automated is, every alternate thread is threaded through another system. So you can pull up alternate threads. One set of alternate threads you can pull up, another set of alternate threads you can pull up. So you pull up one set of alternate threads, and instead of weaving up, down, up, down, up, down like this, you put the cross thread, the weft, across this gap. So you have the bottom half and the top half, and you push this, and you close them together. So obviously what happens? The cross thread goes above one, below the other, above one, below the other, above one, below the other, and so on. And in the next round, when it goes back the other way, the next set of threads is pulled up. Now, I thought it was an interesting way of looking at Avarana Vikshepa Shakti. What does the cross thread, the weft, do? It covers the ones which are not been pulled up. So they are Avarana. The ones that have been pulled up are visible from the top. They are revealed. Now, you can do this, or you can only get a limited number of designs by changing some color, by changing maybe a few threads this way, that way. So about 200 odd years ago, one Frenchman called Charles Jacquard came up with an idea by which you could pull up individual threads. Now what happens is, you can use the Avarana Shakti for selected threads, and you can reveal selected threads. Suddenly you have infinite variety. Each has its own set of properties. Each looks different. Each has different color schemes. Each has different patterns, different strengths, and so on. How he did this was, he put each thread through one eye and the needle and tied it up in what is now called a jacquard. You must have, I'm sure you've heard of jacquard fabric. This is how it's done. And there what he did was he punched certain quite thick cards. And he had these pins. So what would happen is on the threads which have a punched hole, which are connected to the thread, the needle would go through. On the others, needle will be blocked by the card. So something is covered, something is open. By doing that, he managed to lift individual threads, creating very large, infinitely large number of possible combinations. I'm sure Anand will calculate if you tell him 4,000 threads, how many possible combinations of designs you can make, and then add colors, infinitely large number of combinations. So what did he do? He gave the power of avarana and vikshepa, which produced an infinitely large number of distinct designs and patterns. Today, the entire world, including our computer, our hotspot, our microwave, car, everything is run by software. You wonder, how does software run everything? They picked up this idea. A lot of you are software people, so you know more than I do. Simple idea. The electronic gates. Gate is open, gate is closed. 0, 1, 0, 1. So you create by blocking some and opening some others. Exactly the way he did in the Jakarta. By allowing some pins to go through, allowing only some threads to be picked up and some threads not to be picked up. Software was developed like this from the Jakarta. And the way it was done was, you had either a 0, no go, or a 1, go. And initially they said, if you want to write the decimal 1, decimal number means the decimal digit 1, then you could write it by writing combination zeros and ones. Anything raised to the power of 0 is only 1. So they use this system called binary. You start from the right, and since it's binary, you use 2. 2 raised to the power 0, 2 raised to the power 2, then 2 raised to the power 2, then 11. 2 raised to the power 0 or 2 raised to the power 1. So if it's 0, 2 raised to the power 0, 1 is 2 raised to the power 1. 2 raised to the power 0 is 0, is 1. 2 raised to the power 1 is 2. This combination of a variety of zeros and ones is how they started. They were 8 bits. 8 means 8 spots. 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, whatever. Then they expanded it. How to get alphabets. So instead of 8, they got to 16. Called it hexadecimal. 16 positions. But same principle. With this, you were able to create an infinitely large number of varieties of products. So all that we are using in life is the result of avarana vikshepa shakti, borrowed from Maya. Maya does it at a grand scale. The entire Jagat is created by avarana and vikshepa, close some, open some. The whole universe of software is based on that. Why only software? Look at living systems. There are cells in the body. Now, there are cells in the heart, there are cells in the liver, there are cells in every part of the system, each one with different properties. You cannot have a heart cell in the lung or in the kidney. You will have confusion. How do these come about? Same principle. When the cells divide, close some, open some. So by opening specific areas and closing specific areas, you get a liver cell. You get a brain cell. Avarana vikshepa. Everything we do, borrowing the Shakti from Maya, we create this enormous variety of things. And we think we've done a fantastic job. We have. I cannot doubt that. But then we look at Maya and say, my God, that is infinitely large compared to what I do. The entire Jagat, solids, fluids, big, small, various types. The varieties are infinite. That is the power of Maya. And how do you get this infinite varieties? Because by doing this covering of certain things, opening of certain other things, like our jacquard fabric, or like our software, we create a variety of items, each with its own properties. Like I said, in a jacquard fabric, you can make infinitely large number of varieties. No two need be the same. So when you go to buy, you say, this looks nice. This doesn't look nice. You know, in software also, nowadays, everything is written, coding is done, but in the original machines that were written, we're all written machine language, 0 and 0 only. And then the next step was, like in the jacquard, they also had cards. IBM had a machine called 0026. Some of you may not be aware of this because these have become museum pieces now. No hole, it will go. No hole, no go. No. So it had 8 rows. So you get the same pattern, infinitely large number of patterns. We wrote a whole lot of programs, each one functioning differently, each one with different properties. Of course, the thing is that when you did that, when you punched cards, inevitably there was some error. After all the effort of spending hours punching cards, you go and feed it to the computer. Then there's a system called compilation. This converts into machine language. The machine can't understand this by itself. It converts to machine language. And then you find, after waiting for some time, where the high priest of the computer, those days there used to be these big mainframes. Mainframes were housed in the only air-conditioned area in the whole office. That was like a temple. Like a temple, when you went there to submit your offering in the form of punch cards, you had to leave your chappal outside. Everywhere else in the office, you could go with your chappal. Because it's a temple. And there's an anteroom where all the cards are kept, and then inside Sanctum Sanctorum, where the machine is there, where you find huge cabinets with big tape and lights blinking on and off everywhere. And the high priest will come to you. You give him your offering. You will take it and will say, come back at 4 o'clock. You come back at 4 o'clock, keeping your fingers crossed and hoping that it'll all work well, and you get a one-page output. So all the work again, all over, going through what you've written as a program, checking where the error is. To try and lessen this, there was another machine called IBM 029. 029 is a verifying machine. So somebody has punched the cards, and another person, not the same person makes the same mistake again. We'll do the verification. But the process of Avarana Vikshepa is the same. And by doing this, by creating this partially closed, some open, some covered, some uncovered, Surya is saying the video is getting frozen. Let's give it a minute or two. If it doesn't, then I will go off video. By doing this, how do you create variety? Because each one has a separate set of attributes and properties. A software written to drive the mobile phone or a particular function of the mobile phone cannot be used for something else because the properties are different. A cell which has been created by closing certain areas and opening certain areas to do the function of the liver cannot be used as a brain cell. Properties are different. But what does property mean? A ghata has certain properties, certain attributes, which is why we call it a ghata, a pot. And we will call it ghatattvaṃ. By creating certain specific item with specific properties, we add the tvam, ness, potness. So when we create a pot, it has potness. Where is this potness? Pot was created from clay. But is the potness in the clay? No. Clay is clay. That potness has come from applying the Avarana Vikshepa Shakti and creating a particular type of pot. Like a particular design of a fabric was created by using the Avarana Vikshepa Shakti to create a certain type of fabric or a certain software or a certain cell. Anything you take. So this ness or ness, the tvam, doesn't belong to anything. The ness, the tvam itself is Vidya. Doesn't exist. There is no pot. We proved that already. You've seen that again and again. Where's the question of potness? And yet the pot exists. It has a function to perform. It holds water. Even if it has a hole in the pot, you can break that pot and use the chips for something else. It's a function. So it is neither something which you can discard as being not there, nor accept as real. Any tvam is an attribute. We have Jiva-tvam. By covering up the nature of Brahman and superimposing a tvam on it, which is mithya anyway, we think we've got a jiva. And the variety of jivas you get has to do with the Avarana Vikshepa Shakti. The falsely superimposed attributes. Therefore, we get a variety of beings. When we talk of software, within the universe of software, there is an infinite variety. Within the universe of cells, there's infinite variety. Infinitely large variety, let us say. But when it comes to Maya, it is truly infinite variety. Now we understand this whole Jagat and the Jagatvam, if you want. I have not heard such a word. Jagatvam. All these properties, infinitely varied properties. Multiple and variegated Jagat is only Mithya Nama Rupa. The Jiva is Nama Rupa, the Jagat is Nama Rupa. So he said, Maya being Maya, Brahmani Avasthita Maya, which has its ashraya in Maya, in Brahman, seems to cover Brahman, instead produced Jiva Jagat by giving it a huge variety of attributes and properties, which are different from each other. Brahman itself has no difference. There are no jati, therefore there is no vijatiya bheda. There is nothing else in the jati, therefore you don't have swajatiya bheda. In its own group there is no bheda. And Brahman is being partless. There is no Svagata Bheda either. But you've got this huge variety, multiple variegated things, each look different from the other. Because of the Shakti Dvaya of Maya. So he said in the verse we did last week, Brahmani avastitha Maya vikshepavriti rupini. By its power of vikshepa and avarana, it covers avritya khandata, that akhandatam avritya. Tasmin, in that Brahman, Jagat Jivau Prakalpayet, Kalpayet, non-self-existent. And then he talked about what is Jiva, what is Jagat. Once you've understood that Jiva, Jagat are only creation, in quotes, of Maya, because of the power it wields of Vikshepa and Avarana. Actually, it should be Avarana and Vikshepa. First, you cover the knowledge of whatever, in the case of Maya, of Brahman. And in its place, Tasmin, you create all these varieties. Take the same analogy. If there is no covering and no Vikshepa, there's only one. You can't have variety. And that one is Brahman. And this Jiva, which is the Bhokta, which is called Chidabasa. For him to do the Bhogyam or Bhojyam, he needs objects. For that, the Bhogyam Jagat is available. Varieties. So he said, Bhogya Rupam Idam Sarvam Jagat. And it's only Bhuta Bhautikam. Okay. So Maya produces this Jagat and Jiva by producing this infinitely large variety of attributes and qualities. And he cleared all the doubts about when they started. They are anadi. And they are vyavaharikam. Both the Jiva and the Jagat are vyavaharikam. What is vyavaharikam? Pramana praptam vyavaharikam. It is there, therefore I see it. I see it, therefore it is there. Pramana praptam. The same thing, he gave another example of how you create the infinite variety in a swapna. They are also the same thing. Vikshepa Vritti Rupini. Nidra. During the semi-sleep. You create the entire Jagat, which is within the Swapna. What is the extent of the Jagat? Only the extent of the knowledge available to the dreamer in his waking state. He cannot create a Jagat of something he hasn't known in the waking state. So in the waking state, the Vyavarika Jiva has collected certain knowledge which is stored in the memory. Only based on that memory can he project the whole Jagat in the Swapna Prapancham. What he knows, he projects. He knows mountains, he projects mountains. He knows happiness, he projects happiness. He knows pain, he projects pain. He only can project what he knows. Maya, on the other hand, makes Ishvara Sarvajna. Listen to this very carefully. It is not, I'm not saying Brahman plus Maya is Ishvara, but conceptually look at this. The non-self-existent Maya, non-self-existent Maya, non-self-existent, therefore Mithya, seems to create Ishvara. All knowing, all knowledge, to create this entire Jagat. Things I know and things I don't know. By creating Ishvaratvam. Ishvaratvam is also properties we attribute to Ishvara. If you can see that cognitively, that Ishvaratvam, and similarly, the Jiva is created and you have Jivatvam. The difference is Ishvaratvam, there's only one. Sarvajna, Sarvashaktiman. Jivatvam, although you can broadly classify into one category, saying Alpajnatvam, Alpashaktimatvam. But variety. Because some close, some open. Although Jiva 1 and Jiva 2 are both Alpajna and Alpashaktiman, the Jnanam that Jiva 1 has is different from the Jnanam Jiva 2 has. The Shakti Jiva 1 has different from Shakti Jiva 2 has. Now you can create a variety of Jiva. If we can recognize this, the Ishvara, because there is Ishvaratvam. Jiva, because there is Jivatvam. And if we recognize that any Tvam is only an attribute, and if you can look beyond that attribute, you see that there is only Brahman. Our famous example of Devadatta, the Devadatta of 20 years ago and the Devadatta of today, very different, because the Tvam is added in there. Because of this time frame and place. But if you can cognitively separate that in both, you recognize Devadatta. If you can cognitively remove Ishvaratvam and cognitively remove Jivatvam, only Brahman is left. What will happen? If I remove Jivatvam, there is no Jiva. If I remove potness from pot, where is pot? But what is left is Brahman. Even in the pot, even in the Swapna, there is variety in the Swapna. There's a pot in the swapna that also has potness. Ghatatvam. First, when you wake up, you recognize that that pot you saw in the dream is non-self-existing, is mithya. But now what do you say? The satyam is now because I am awake. So the pratibhasikam, all the varieties that have been created in the pratibhasikam becomes satyam on waking up. Oh, sorry, they become mithya. And what is satyam is only what is seen waking up. Correct? Now, when you are in the waking state, he took pains to explain what is vyavaharikam, transactional, empirical. This variety of jagat created Maya by Maya with its avarana vikshep shakti is only empirical. Pramana praptam jagat, pramana praptam jiva. Why did you know that the jiva in the swapna and all the jagat in the swapna is non-self-existent, is mithya, because when you wake up, they disappear. Whereas in the waking state, the integral calculus I knew today, when I wake up tomorrow, it's still there. The pain in my leg today was still there when I wake up next day. So I assume that this is Satyam. Satyam is what? That which doesn't change. But if you pull yourself back a little bit, you can see that this Satyam also changes. Therefore cannot be Satyam. For the Vyavaharika Jiva, there is no Vyavaharika. He doesn't understand Vyavaharika. He understands Pratibhasikam because that finished. There is nothing there. So he says that Pratibhasikam. Pratiti matram eva. Only perception. And it disappears. Therefore he says that is Pratibhasikam. Pratiti matram eva bhasatvat Pratibhasikam. But Vyavaharikam is real. Therefore, for him, there is no Vyavaharikam. There is only real Paramarthikam and Pratibhasikam. He doesn't have Vyavaharikam. And he doesn't recognize Vyavaharikam. When he begins to recognize that this is also not Paramarthikam, then his quest starts. How does that start? How does that happen in the Swapnakalpita Jiva? Because in the Swapna, if a guru comes and tells him, this is Pratibhasikam, he will not accept. He will say, no, this is Paramarthikam. But because it ends and is able to see it from outside, he recognizes that as only Pratibhasikam. But now he is in the waking state. What he defines as Vyavaharika state, what is created by Maya, Ishvara Shrishtam. He says, this is Paramarthika. That's Paramarthika. That's only Pratibhasikam. So in this state also, if a guru comes and tells him, hey, listen, this is also not Paramarthikam. He says, go. I don't believe you. Exactly the way he did in the Swapna. This is Paramatma. This is the ultimate. This is Satyam. But in most human minds, a lingering doubt is there. That lingering doubt saying there's something is missing. In my knowledge, in my understanding, there is something missing. But he lets it go. Lets it go because of various reasons. It's inconvenient to try and look for something else. I'm convinced this is Satyam. He gives it up because he made some attempts early and didn't get a reply satisfactorily. He says, that's fine. This is, as far as I'm concerned, Paramarthikam. So it's only Paramarthikam and Pratibhashikam. Within this Paramarthikam, what he thinks is Paramarthikam, with the Vyavaharika, we have seen that there is also Vikshepa and Avarana. So much variety. So when he thinks about that, he can look at saying, hey, there is a possibility that this is also not Paramarthikam. This is also Anritam. So this analysis that has been made here by classifying Paramarthikam, Vyavaharikam and Pratibhasikam, a wonderful way to look at this. That this Pratibhasikam starts when the dream starts. Pratibhasikam finishes when the dream ends. We are able to recognize that that is Pratiti Matrameva. But in Vyavaharikam, we are not able to see it. Face it, there is no beginning for this. Anadikala marabhya mokshat purvamidam dvayam. What are dvayam? The Vyavaharika Jiva and the Vyavaharika Jagat. They are all in the transactional world. Vyavahare sthitham. But we don't recognize it. We see it as the truth. Vyavahare sthitam tasmat ubhayam vyavaharikam. Vyavahare sthitam, therefore vyavaharikam. To the individual in that Jagrat state, this recognition of Vyavaharikam is not there. He says this is Paramarthikam. How we explain this whole thing beautifully? By taking two verses, one on Brahmani Avastita Maya and Chidabasa Sthita Nidra. Both exhibit Vikshepa Avarana Shakti. We've seen this is only two extremes, the Vyavaharika Jagat and the Pratibhasika Jagat, how this comes up. In the Swapna, Avritya Jiva Jagatau, Jiva and Jagat, which are Vyavaharika, they are covered. In the Swapna, you don't say that. You create a new set. Purve Nutne tu Kalpayi. Now, if we look at even Vyavaharika, within Vyavaharika, we keep creating new items. And because we keep creating new items, we only think that these are all real. Somewhere, something has to give for the individual to say, is it real? And that is why the kind of analysis that we try and do earlier, simple definition, real cannot change. What is the truth cannot change. That is why the truth that is embedded in Vedanta, in the Shastra, has sustained for God knows how many thousands of years. It doesn't change. It is the truth. Everything else in the Vyavaharika Jagat is subject to change, subject to destruction. And therefore cannot be real. Very simple way of analyzing that. No, it's a scientifically proved fact. So to that fellow we say, please show me one scientific fact which has not undergone change. One single scientific fact. None. For 60 years, people who ought to know denied us ghee, saying it is cholesterol. We all believed it. Therefore, we stopped taking ghee. Today, FDA has come up with another, there is no such thing as good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. Otherwise, we will go through all these tests, LDL, HDL, whatever else, and pay huge amounts of money to get the test done. And then even larger amounts of money to pay for the medicines, which you didn't need. Nothing remains unchanging except Satyam. The moment you attribute properties to anything, which is what Maya does, it is subject to change. It is subject to destruction. The cells are created by the same Bhavana Vikshepa Shakti, will work for some time and die. Everything will change. And by definition, that which doesn't change is Satyam. And that is very tough. Because when you say doesn't change means what? It means on a time scale, it doesn't change. In relation to place, it doesn't change. In relation to the surrounding objects, it doesn't change. But time and space themselves are subject to change. Therefore, even that you have to look at from the Parimarthika perspective. Trikala atitaha, not subject to time in any of the three states. Past, present, and future. That's all we know in this Jagat. Same thing with space. Science is edging towards this. Science, like I said, is subject to a lot of changes. Mani avastita maya, nidra, chidabasa stita nidra. Two sets of creations. Ishvara Shishtam, Manushya Shishtam. And within this, we have a whole lot of other Shrishti. By creating an infinitely large variety of, within any one universe. all of which will change. This much we saw. To understand what is pratibhasikam, what is vyavaharikam. Vyavahare sthitam iti vyavaharikam. Pratiti matram pratiti kale eva ete, that which exists only as long as the perception is there, is pratibhasikam. Pratiti kale eva ete sthitatvat pratibhasike. Same thing. Vyavaharike sthitatva vyavaharika. That will also change. This change is more visible, that change is not so easily visible. We think it's permanent, unchanging. Pratiti kala eva ete sthitatvat pratibhasike. Pratiti kalam in the swapna is satyam. Because during the pendency of the pratiti, the perception, it is satyam. We can't see any difference. Same way, we don't see vyavaharika, we see only satyam. The fellow in the dream does not see pratibhasikam. Who sees pratibhasikam? The one who is able to come out and sit in the vyavaharika, which is satyam, that is pratibhasikam. So in the swapna, everything that happens is pratibhasikam, seen from the perspective of the vyavaharika. Seen from the pratibhasika perspective, there is no pratibhasika. That is satyam, that is paramarthika. Not even vyavaharika. But in the vyavaharika state, we say that is pratibhasika because I know it's changed. It's finished. But here, this satyam, paramarthika. Because I don't see that change. I don't want to see that change. Nahi swapna prabuddhasya punaswapne sthitis-tayoho. Once you come out of the swapna, you don't have the same swapna prapancham. The fellow who was struggling to eat food because he hadn't had anything to eat for 3 days, is real, the hunger is real for him. When he wakes up, swapna prabuddhasya, he doesn't have any hunger anymore. He had a full meal. Thank God, that was only a dream. That is a swapna jagat I created. Next time he dreams, he may be a Maharaja eating all the time. That hungry I has disappeared. So nahi swapna prabuddhasya punaha swapne sthitihi tayoho. The jagat he created in the swapna, the jiva he created in the swapna, he comes back, says, oh, that is only a disappearing dream state. Next day he goes to sleep again, he dreams again. This time, the jiva he sees in the dream is not the jiva he saw in the last dream. The jagat he created is not the same jagat that he created last time. Another jagat. Therefore, nahi swapna prabuddhasya punaswapne sthitihi tayoho. We create. And we create, we think we are real. And we think what we created is only illusory. Therefore, for the pratibhashika jiva, that is paramarthikam. For the vyavaharika jiva, no, that is mithya. But this is paramarthikam. Only when you're able to come out and become a jnani, when adequate punya brings you to Shastra, adequate punya allows you the luxury of a guru, can you say, no, that was also not paramarthika. What I'm living through now is not paramarthika. Good analysis that he has done in terms of paramarthikam, vyavaharikam, and pratibhashikam. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.